Welcome to Henry Harrison's Entrepreneurs Business and Finance Podcast, featuring construction business coach Derek Isaac. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to the Henry Harrison Podcast, Entrepreneurs Business and Finance. Today, we are very fortunate to have Derek Isaac on with us, and he is an expert in construction. He's a repeat entrepreneur, and he's now, among other things, helping other entrepreneurs, specifically in the construction space, with their business. So hello, Derek.
Hi, Henry. Great to be here.
And Derek hails from the northern country of Vancouver.
Yeah.
Some people call that a country, big city. Tell us what you're doing now, Derek, if you would.
Yeah. So simple terms, I'm a coach consultant for general contractors, and our area of genius or expertise is specifically on systems, operations, processes, software, those types of things, helping general contractors run efficiently. And as far as the journey of the entrepreneur, it's helping the owner level up beyond being a really good manager to the more business owner entrepreneur, where they've got a management team. That's usually a pretty big step and a lot of turbulence in a company as the owner tries to implement better systems and people to run those systems in the business. So we help them through that process.
Talk about a little bit about what that means personally, because systems processes might seem a little bit dry, but Friday night late calls and Saturday afternoon and Sunday afternoon emergencies and working late into the night, those things don't seem dry. So what's the end result that you're hoping to help people get to?
The kind of the biggest takeaway is peace of mind, I think, knowing that the business will operate. Yes, you're still going to have inputs and you need to be leading your team, but you can step away. You know what your margins are, so you're not worried about ups and downs. The economy comes and goes, and there's always ups and downs in business, but you have the controls, the people, the process systems in place to know that you essentially have a self-functioning business that doesn't fully rely on you. You can have your peace of mind. You don't have to work 28 hours a week, which a lot of contractors fall into that. I call it the owner trap, where you're pushing growth, grow revenue, take on jobs, bigger jobs, grow, have more people, and it just becomes a nightmare and a mess for the owner. And I've been there. We tripled our revenue in 1 year as a general contractor, and I made less money that year than I did the previous year. So
So let me step back on that. First of all,
yeah.
I was a custom home builder, so we have a lot in common.
Yeah.
My first business when I was 26, and I managed to partner with a more experienced professional builder, 20 years my senior. But we built for 10 years, and in the end, we were building 10 houses in the over $1 million range, which that was 20 years ago, so that would be more now. And Texas, that's a lot of house. It was typically 5,000 to 8,000 square feet. I also built some small townhouses, inner city, and did some rehab and a few other types of constructions. I think we did well with not having the long hours and processes, but we didn't do as well with, there were 6 of us. We didn't do as well with, I couldn't sell the business because it was too tied to us. So when I stopped, I just stopped. And my business partner went on and he built for a few more years, and then he retired. So are some of these people able to get builder size to business where they can actually sell it?
Yes, that's the goal. We are usually much earlier than when the business owner is in that stage of selling, but everything we do is geared towards that. Our coaching program, we call the Asset Builder Program, because we want your company to be an asset that's generating money, profit for you, and also a sellable asset that you could hand over to family or sell on the open market, essentially, to somebody else coming into the market or competitors or whatever, so that there's an exit strategy, essentially. And as you mentioned, nobody wants to buy a job or a company where the owner is still working 60, even 40, 50 hours a week necessarily. for any decent amount of money. Usually it's just maybe for the client list and you're getting pennies on the dollar or something like that. But yes, that's always a future goal for the company, is that you have those options essentially. If you want to exit, you can sell, you can pass it on. There's value there. And it doesn't have those single points of failure, which is typically the owner. You remove the owner and the business more than likely is going to either have a lot of issues, or you need some kind of Superman to come into the business to be able to facilitate all the operations of the business.
Hard to explain for those that haven't experienced it, the chaos that can happen. And my first job was with a big national home builder, and I remember my boss told me, "It sounds easy. Everybody else builds the house, and until
Mm,
everything goes wrong." And when people
yeah.
don't show up, and something isn't done right for the next trade, and there's a warranty call, and there's a new customer that you want to meet, and there's a spec house that you have, and someone calls about that, and then it starts raining when it wasn't supposed to rain, and an
Mm,
inspector's calling you because someone's there needs there to meet him, and you can't do it all at once, and your head wants to explode. And we did very well. We actually had a house featured nationally in the front page of Builder magazine, and in Home magazine, which was a home and garden type magazine back when we had a big magazines. And those were just two things I'm proud of. And we had a lot of happy customers. Yeah, it
mm,
was, even though we didn't work, I don't think we worked the 70-hour weeks. It was a
yeah.
lot of work, and it was early mornings. The phone starts ringing, and
Mm,
people don't hesitate to call in the evenings because they've been working all day, and now
yeah.
they're straightening out their invoices or whatever because they've been plumbing, and now
Mm,
they got to talk to you about something else. So I'm going on
yeah.
too long. I want you to talk, but so you've been through that because you had a
Yeah,
home
definitely.
company. Uh,
Yes. The construction industry is so many variables. It is very challenging. And for a whole number of reasons, you mentioned a lot of them there, is just how many different people and things you've got to contend with as far as employees, subcontractors. It's not just your business, it's all these other businesses that you've got to manage. And often they're not really super managed either, because it is the owner operator and they're kind of working during the day and maybe doing their books or paperwork at night if it gets done. And yeah, there's a lot there. And that's why I felt when I started coaching consulting, the industry really needed better systems, processes. Like I had seen the transition from that. My background is I was a framing carpenter. I learned the trade, started a subcontracting company. We then moved into general contracting. And that's often a very common trajectory for a lot of builders. Not all, but a lot of them, they don't have an educational background necessarily in management or business and things like that. They're starting from the ground up, and they grow a business because they're great at what they do. But then you get to that stage where it's like only one person can handle so much. And it's been built off of hard work, sweat, tears, and blood. And that's just not going to help the business to grow into the future, because you can only work so hard. And that's really where we come in, of installing, let's get some good software in place, or utilize the software that you have. Let's get processes. Let's get some sort of organizational leader structure in place, communication. So subs, clients know that they shouldn't be calling you at after 5 or 6 or whatever limits you set, that an email is more appropriate unless there's fire or water damage on their house, but then they should be calling probably the plumber or the firefighters or something like that. Yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. And then my problem that I had was I was not watching my numbers enough. I was a young entrepreneur. There's money signs in my eyes, looking to grow multi-million dollar business, and just thinking the way to success is to get more projects, bigger homes, and make more revenue. But really, it's what you keep at the end of the day. And if that is your sanity or the profit, you want both when it's all said and done.
so how many, so you said general contractor. So was that specifically to custom homes? We doing other things as well?
We did remodels and homes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't grow a massive business. We had a couple projects on the go, project manager and a small labor team, and then a lot of subs. And So the business was doing well. We had good trajectory there. As I mentioned, we tripled revenue in 1 year. And then I started getting into real estate investing as well, which was even though I had the construction background and I knew homes, I didn't know real estate investing on the sense that we were starting to do flips and do our own projects and stuff like that, which was great. I had rental properties previous to that. I bought my first home when I was 19, I think, and ended up pretty much fixing it up over 2 years while I lived there and then selling it for pretty good profit. And also I was able to subdivide the land because there's this tiny old house on a big piece of land, which looked perfect to me, and then turn that around into a duplex, another rental. But when we got into real estate investing, I was pretty much running two businesses. I brought on a new partner to help me with the real estate investing, and I had probably put a little bit more trust into them, but they were kind of new to it as well, and it ended up becoming a house of cards that we ended up taking on too much debt essentially, and cash flows being what they will, we had a really tough time and had to sell our houses for what we could. Some of them we just had to rent out, and eventually I had to close the business and just walk away as well because it just wasn't viable anymore, and we had accumulated kind of more debt than we wanted to, mostly in taxes and things like that, which is not a good thing to do, but it's one of those things that can just wreck a business, is growing too fast without the acumen or leadership ability to manage everything that's going on.
Did you, when did you say, okay, I'm going to wind this down, I'm going to go a different direction? And you had a small labor crew working for you as well. So you definitely knew more than I did. I didn't have the ability to go and swing a hammer and do framing, but I learned what to look for and how to find
Mm-hmm.
right people to do the work. But you actually, that's a good facet to have actually as a home builder, to have that level of knowledge. But when did you decide, okay, I've got this knowledge, I've got this business, but I'm making money, but I need to do something else?
Yeah. So the what kind of ended up happening is I had a good solid construction business. We got into real estate investing. We had some homes that didn't work out well for us, lost some money. So pretty much the construction business was financing the repairs and renos of the real estate investing company, which we ended up having to close. And we went our separate ways with my partner there. And that put me in a really bad spot with the construction company. As I mentioned, we grew really fast. So on paper, it looked great, growing, everything like that. But cash flow is mismanaged. My pricing was not. Another common mistake I see contractors, probably other businesses make this as well, is you price in a way when you're smaller or younger in business to be competitive, and typically you want to land those big jobs and it looks like it'll be good money, but you need to price in a way that facilitates growth, because as you grow you're going to hire managers, you're probably going to have more equipment, you have more expenses as a larger company typically with overheads. And if you're not pricing jobs, like, your money's made in the estimating in construction essentially. If you've underestimated, you can only be so efficient on a project, and you can't really make that money back unless you're doing cost plus or something like that. So yeah, eventually I came to a point where I sat down. I was with my family, and my uncle is a business consultant as well, and we looked through my numbers and added everything up, and it was the pull the wool from my eyes of, yeah, this is not good. We're in a kind of a pretty deep hole here, and there wasn't really a clear way out, and we just had to pretty much pull the plug. I ended up filing for bankruptcy. Luckily, had a good reputation with clients and my trades and my workers. So gave them notice and let them know kind of where things were going. So there wasn't as little hard conversations as possible. The hard conversations, but hard feelings afterwards. It was understandable. And then just went through the really difficult time of going through a bankruptcy and not having any credit, pretty much not having any money. Me and my wife had to move out of our house that we had, so that got foreclosed. Had to sell my dirt bike, which was brought a tear to my eye. I really liked my toys and stuff like that, and just had to start out fresh. And looking back, it was maybe a blessing in disguise, because I was able to have some space to think and figure out more intentionally what I want to do and where I want to be with my life. And for 8 years as my company and just growing that and running that. But it put me in a position to move on to what I'm doing now. I was coaching and consulting before I closed my other business, helping some local business owners there with my experience. And I realized how much you don't know when you get started in entrepreneurship and just how much there is to learn. Unless you're just constantly learning as an entrepreneur, you're probably going to have a tough time. And people that have been doing it for years, decades longer, are just going to have a lot more knowledge and can steer you through those paths that will take you maybe years and a lot of difficulty in a very much shorter period of time. So after closing the company, I worked for another large home builder. They were doing probably about 200 homes a year and well over $100 million in revenues. And then shortly thereafter, I moved up to Vancouver with my wife and worked for a remodeler here for a little bit. And then through those 2, 3 years, I started grew my coaching practice. I was already doing it, but that's where I was able to really fine tune and build a full system that could be plug and play for general contractors. So we've developed this business in a box, if you will, of documentation, software systems, and then we help with the coaching to implement it in general contracting businesses.
I've sure known a lot of contractors and home builders that have gone bankrupt in Texas.
Yeah.
Market cycles, all sorts of problems. It's just hard. Personal guarantees on loans and name it. But so you've been able to obviously create a business. People are paying you because they find what you teach them valuable. And the school of hard knocks, you really went through it. You have I guess, in your words, you had one sort of gap in your main knowledge, which was keeping an eye on the numbers. You sure knew a lot about most everything else, and I'm sure you filled that gap. So what are some stories with your current customers? How do you normally work with them? What's a success story?
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. Because they don't pay you just because they want to see a pretty face.
Yeah, not paying me for counseling anyways, even though sometimes it can get to that point where things are pretty tough. But so my clients typically they're in the kind of the 1 to 5 million revenue range, looking to first off get control of their business and get just processes in place, but usually scale up to the 7 to 10 million. We've done work with contractors above that, but usually that's a normal client situation for us. And what we do is we have all the documentation. We've worked with many different software. We've done the integrations. We've trained their teams. So we've done this countless times with general contractors. So when someone comes in, we do a big assessment of their company, look at their numbers, their financials, pinpoint anything that doesn't make sense, look at their estimating, figure out what software they're using, what is their current processes. Every company has processes. It's just usually they're not defined or not all that good. So we get a really clear picture of where the business is. Then we figure out where do we want to go? What's the long-term goals here? What are the steps? So we lay that out pretty quickly within our first 1 to 2 calls. And we also do a full marketing assessment as well, because there's often a lot of low-hanging fruit in marketing that the contractor is not doing. And we want to ensure that they have consistent lead flow and consistent as possible projects and revenues to start filling their pipeline. So those are early things that we look at. And then from there, we can pinpoint, okay, we really need to improve your estimating, or we really need to get your marketing and lead gen sales process. Usually pre-construction process is another early place that we start, because that's such a pivotal point of a sales process that a lot of contractors either don't really have well defined or aren't even doing some of them, but have a tremendously large outcome on the management of the project later, as well as the client experience. And then from there, we just concierge and help them implement the documentation we have, build out their software. One thing that separates us from other coaches is we will do the implementation for the business, depending on the coaching package. But we will set up the software, we will customize the documentation, we will meet with their team to help train them on the systems, and we're very involved with the company, because I've found a lot of these business owners, they don't have time to do all this. They don't have the knowledge typically. So they would much rather just hire us to implement it. Obviously, we need their input. They need to lead their team and help with implementation. But we're very hands-on with building it out for our clients.
I appreciate that. Yeah. Most of the problems are probably, they're not problems you haven't seen before in your own business. And now you have the advantage of seeing, get eyes on so many other businesses that you're actually learning from them. They're learning from
Yep.
you, but things are always evolving and changing, as you say.
Yeah, for you mentioned client stories, so I'll do a few kind of in rapid fire here. So we had one client in Hawaii. They were doing maybe about 2 million, a little under, and now they're doing probably I haven't talked to them recently, but probably around 7 plus. They had a very large government contract that they were able to secure, and essentially the owner was doing everything except for admin. He had a really great admin person, which helped the back office, but he was doing the estimating, the project management, and multiple millions of dollars in revenue, working crazy hours. So we were able to hire a project manager, define their estimating process. Even though the admin was amazing, she didn't really have the structure tools to do her job well or keep everything running. So really help them professionalize their business, if you will, and help the client experience. Another client of ours in Arizona was in a really tough spot, similar to myself, where I accumulated quite a bit of debt that was like scary looking at it for the first time. Had a home on the market, a spec home that he had done, and was just barely getting by. He was a home builder, but didn't have any projects lined up. Was just kind of keeping busy with some remodels and earth moving and just kind of random stuff. And it's been a tough 2 years for him, but this year he's already secured 3 new homes that he's going to be building. Two are underway. I think he's got another few in the pipeline that are probably going to come to fruition. So he's really turned things around. And I think without some guided help and all the hard work, I don't know if he would have survived with the business, but he's doing good. So we helped him through that. Another client in Georgia, who I've been working with for over 2 years, 2.5 years now. He went through a big slump as well, which happens in business, and we're often not prepared for it. Where he had a pretty good year, he hired me, and then it was a real trudge for him for about a year or so. And I don't want to say too much, but essentially, he was paying for a marketing agency that just was not being effective. They were doing the right things, but the results were not there. Due to cash flow, had to let them go. We were able to implement our CRM. We helped him set up a lot of his branding, and now he's got multiple new homes on that he's building right now. And this looks like a breakout year for him compared to the last 2 to 3 years of what he's done. So that's on the business growth. As far as the back end, though, that's really where the magic is. As far as a system, he's got people in place. He's got an admin person, which he didn't have before. He's got a site superintendent. So he's starting to put his team together, and the consistency is coming in place, which is just a huge kind of ability just for the homeowner to take a breath sometimes when you have that consistency. You know your margins are good, you know what you're going to make on projects, you know you've got some leads in the pipeline and projects scheduled 6 months to a year out. It just puts you in a much better place to manage a business than the fight or flight or what's the other one there? Feast or famine that
Fight
can
or
come.
flight, right, right.
Yeah.
It must make you feel good. Very satisfying.
Definitely. I'm very proud of my clients, and it is very fulfilling to see them succeed, especially when we've been working together for quite some time and you know their goals, you know how amazing people they are, how hard they work. And then to see those results start to come in and they're feeling it. And there's a point where it clicks somewhere, usually around 6 months or 6 to 9 months, where it's like the systems start turning, they start to understand, their eyes start to open up as far as, oh, wow, I don't have to do this anymore. Oh, wow, I don't have to figure this out every time over and over again. We've got a process, we got a system, the software takes care of it, we got an automation, whatever it is. And they can just slowly get things off their plate and just enjoy running their business again instead of getting stuck in on the nitty gritty.
There's so many things about the business. We love building people their dream homes, or even if some of the smaller townhomes, their first home. And it's a neat thing. And you get to see, I had to work for Coopers and Lybrand as an internship when I was in college, and that was pretty neat. But it wasn't as interesting to me. It was government contracts, and hey, I got to home building company, and right off the bat, I'm helping someone build this house that they move into, and you can see it stays there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I grew up in a house and loved having a home and still love having a home. So it's a neat place to be in. And to me, the subcontractors and the contractors and the home builders, but salt of the earth people really doing the hard day's work.
Yep.
You can't fake putting up a frame in a house. You're either getting it
Mhm.
done in the time you're supposed to and framed right, or you're having
Yeah.
problems. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I'm grateful to be helping the builders that we work with and just showing them there's a better way, easier way. And it's stuff that they know they need, but they just don't know how to approach it or don't have the time for it. And it's these kind of 1% small changes. Some of them are big, but a lot of it's just improving this, that, and the other thing and doing it in a processed, ordered way. And yeah, we help them. They help their clients move into beautiful homes and that are built with quality and by people that care and have a good client experience at the end of the day. It's one thing to build a nice home, but for the client to still be happy and not super stressed out is another thing because it's stressful for the builder's clients as well, right? When things are unorganized or they don't have all the information or good communication, things like that.
you have a podcast as well talking about some of these issues. Give us a brief bit on that before we
Yeah,
wrap up.
so it's a Contractor Business Builder Podcast. We're on all the major channels, and the podcast is specifically for contractors. And we have a lot of different guests on that are focused or have a background in construction. And you can, yeah, search through the different speakers there that we have on, and a lot of them are super qualified, but have all their, we try to have interesting niche people on. Obviously, you've got the big ones like marketing, estimating, general business building. We have other coaches on and stuff like that. We're very niched coaching company. So I'm not a, I love just knowing other people in the industry and we're all trying to help builders at the end of the day. So lots of great information there. Definitely go check it out if you want to improve your building business, learn more about the contracting world and just yeah, get some really good conversations. What's that?
What's the name of the podcast?
Contractor Business Builder Podcast.
Contract Business Builder Podcast. Okay.
Yeah.
When you were a kid, Derek, did you think you were going to start a business? Was that a family thing, or was
I
that something?
yeah, I don't think it wasn't a clear indication in my mind necessarily when I was quite a bit younger. I thought I would probably be a daredevil. I always like riding dirt bikes and quads and my BMX bike and things like that. So that was like my goal. But my dad's a beekeeper. My parents worked and we worked and grew on the farm. So self-employed runs in my family. And my grandpa was a farmer and beekeeper as well. So I always had that in me. And as I went through high school, it became more evident. And looking back now, my childhood, I was always, yeah, industrious and thinking beyond just getting a good job, essentially. And then shortly after high school, I always was a big reader, but started reading these personal development and self-help type books. And I was open to this world of business. And it really captivated me because I've always been a big learner and kind of a bigger thinker. And it just aligned with me. And I knew that I wanted to start a business and invest in some real estate and stuff like that very early. And so, yeah, I think I knew I'd always be self-employed and run a business from quite a young age, even though I didn't know necessarily what exactly that would be.
Tell us what it was like with being raised by a beekeeper,
Yeah, it
or
was
what
good
that
times.
business is like.
It is a
For those,
very interesting business because similar to agriculture and farming, you've got your seasons, right? It's very seasonal. You're working like crazy in the summer. Come July, August, you're harvesting honey. So you're wearing this beekeeping suit with a veil. There's bees flying around you. You're getting stung probably maybe 10 times a day. And where I'm from, Winnipeg, it gets really hot in the summers, actually. It's like 30, 35 degrees sometimes. And you're just sweating buckets, working hard. And then winter comes and you're just kind of fixing stuff and preparing for the next year. And there's not a whole lot to do because the bees are all in a cold room and it's a couple of feet of snow outside and pretty cold. So not much happening on as far as a beekeeper goes, but always something to do, work to be done, preparing and stuff like that. So yeah, just a lot of seasonality, a lot of traveling as well because you got to go to all the fields to pick up the bees and feed them and take care of them and whatever. So I think that's one thing that really drew me towards construction because I always loved driving around, go to different sites, drive around the city, or if you got places, we did some houses in Lake Country and stuff like that. And just being out and about, I think runs in me and similar construction to beekeeping. You're always going from one project or hive to the next and cruising around.
What is
So
that? What is, for people that don't know, what does that look like? How many bees would there be, or how much room would they
yeah,
take? Uh,
yeah. So we ran around 800 hives, 700 to 800 hives was typical. Normally you have a field of 20 to 30 in one place. In the spring, you put them out in the forest, the bush area to grow and strengthen. And then when the fields, typically for us, it was canola, alfalfa, that kind of thing, you go move the bees out to the different fields. And I don't know how many bees are in a hive, a whole lot. But yeah, so you put them out there and then you got to make sure the queen is healthy and you got to replace queens every now and then because they're the ones that populate the hive. And you put them out there, you make sure they're doing well, and then they bring in the honey over a couple months while the flowers are in bloom. And then come fall time, late summer, fall, then you go and take the honey from the hives, you bring them back to our we call it a honey house, but it's essentially a shop or a warehouse, and then you extract the honey, which is fun, but it's also a pretty laborious job. But you extract the honey and you just have the amount of barrels and barrels of honey essentially that would get produced every year. And agriculture, so a lot of ups and downs. Some years great bumper crops and you're doing good, and then other years we would get like mites and stuff in the bees. You always have to treat for mites, and so you could have 30% of your bees wiped out every year. And so you got to grow new hives with new queens. We call them nuke hives. And you start them small and they grow up. And their first year, they're probably not going to produce much honey. And then by the second year, there'd be a full hive that would produce. So you've always got new hives coming up. But some years we had some really tough years too, where it was pretty rough. As a kid, I'm sure I didn't see all of how it was, but I know that things were pretty tight and a lot of our bees did die one year. So if you got 50, 60% of your production gone one year, it's pretty devastating. Yeah, but
was there farming as well, or it was just beekeeping?
for us, it was just beekeeping. So strictly beekeeping. And my grandpa was a farmer. Both my grandpas were farmers, actually. So I had a lot of cousins and stuff and farms around, and you got to go drive on the combine and check out what's going on. And they had some hog barns and stuff too. Was surrounded by a lot of farming, but my dad just did the beekeeping, and he got the odd job sometimes during the winter if I needed some extra money or whatever. But for us, it was just the beekeeping. Yeah.
Winnipeg, for those that don't know, where's that? How big a town was that?
So Winnipeg's up in Manitoba, central Canada, right near close to the border, and it is a prairie town. So it's probably from what I've seen of the world, which isn't nearly everything, it's probably the flattest place I've ever seen. It's just flat. As far as the south goes, when you go north, you get into the Shield, which is rocky and more hilly, but and lots of forests and beautiful. But so yeah, central Canada, nice in summer, very cold in winter. One of the reasons we moved to Vancouver is a little nicer here, and we've got the mountains, the ocean, and amazing forests and stuff. But yeah, born and raised, grew up in Winnipeg, prairie town, lots of agriculture. Winnipeg, it's probably pushing 1 million people by now, so it's an okay sized city, but still a small town community type values, I think, even though it's obviously a city and has all your major city things.
We could have used you back in the day. We went to seminars from Lee Evans. He was a big home building consultant. I think he was probably more suited for mid-sized volume builders. But anyway, I've got a lot out of that. But it would have been helpful to have you come in our company. So I'm glad you're helping other people. I see you still like to mountain bike and in winter snowboard.
Yep.
You've been married not that long ago, it sounds like. What have you got planned for going forward before we wrap up? Unless there's anything
Yeah,
else you want to say.
definitely. So obviously, growing the business, helping more clients, that's always a thing. We're always working on our product of having the best systems around and that. Personally, me and my wife, we like traveling. So we usually will stay put for a year or two and then we go traveling. We went for a year traveling in 2023 and yeah, 2023, 2024. And she's from Spain. So, Europe, and we went to New Zealand and stuff like that. And we'll probably plan another, I don't know if a full year of traveling, but would probably be pretty significant traveling around within the next year or two. And we would like to do a tour of the States as well with a camper van or a camper trailer. That's always been one of our dreams as well. Go down the West Coast here and kind of make our way pretty much just around the coast of the country, but see how far we get and how long we have. But that's another thing on our list to get done.
And judging by the location you mentioned to some of your clients and that you're in Toronto, you must do this virtually in many
Yes.
cases.
Yeah. Yeah. Located in Vancouver. 90% of our clients are in the United States, all over. Some locations are just tend to be more heavy, I guess, as far as construction goes. But yeah, that's where most of our clients are. It's all virtual. We've got, of course, some Canadian clients, and then I've got one client in the UK right now. So we do the odd overseas client as well, but definitely focused on North America and mostly the United States as far as clients go.
So do you continue with your clients when you're traveling?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So it's a working holiday, if you will. That's why I call
Right.
it traveling because it's remote. Obviously, maybe not obviously, but we're a systems company, so we've got pretty good systems. So besides the implementation and face-to-face coaching and consulting, a lot of the back end stuff is automated or built out, structured, or our team can handle the kind of the back end work stuff
It's
of
not
the
just you,
business.
you've got a team that you've developed working with you.
Yeah, we've got an assistant operations manager and then a marketing manager, I guess, if you will, third party kind of freelancer, but they're not helping our clients. They're just helping us with our marketing and content and all that kind of stuff.
Perfect. That sounds like an exciting future, and I really appreciate you sharing all this. And I think people are going to benefit from it, and they should go give me a call or check out your podcast or both. And
Yeah.
thanks a lot.
Yeah. Thanks. It's been great.
Thank you for watching Henry Harrison's Entrepreneurs, Business and Finance podcast here on YouTube. Remember to subscribe so you never miss an episode. You can also search Henry Harrison Podcast on your favorite podcast platforms.